First thing I want to do is wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from the Waist Deep Wade Fishing Southwest Florida family. Wish you all the best. Hats off to you all. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Friends, family, followers, clients, thank you all. None of this would be possible if it wasn't for you guys. I hope you all have the happiest of moments with your friends and family. God bless you all, and let's hope for another spectacular year on the water. So let's begin. Recently, I've received tons of comments about a specific topic, and we're going to get into it in depth today. I mean, we're going to really rip this one apart, and I hope this will help you become a better fisherman. So the topic of today, negative tides. What are they? Why do they occur? And how to fish them. I am going to be reading from my notes. Usually it's straight off the top of my head, but I wanted to be specific, so all the information that I didn't know off the top of my head, I made notes, so please don't mind me reading off of my phone here. I wanted to give you the most accurate information about negative tides and how to fish them possible. So first thing is first. When a low tide is expressed as a negative tide, it means the tide will fall below the chart datum. For example, -1 means the low tide will be 1 foot below the average low water mark. The low tide may also be a positive number. The number 1.5 indicates that the lowest tide will be 1.5 feet above the chart datum. So this is important, okay? When reading your tides and planning out your day, you have to know how to read your charts, okay? You've seen my videos, you saw how productive a negative tide can be. Now, what causes a negative tide? Okay, and this is another question, why does this happen? Well, winter brings us negative low tides. This is when the low tide falls below the average for that area. The moon's gravitational pull, especially around the new and full phases, causes these negatives, which are seasonally compounded by forces resulting from the northern hemisphere's tilt away from the sun. So that's the basics of what the negative tide is. So with winter, this brings us a negative low tide. This is when the low tide falls below the average, mean for that area. The gravitational pull, especially around the new and full phases, causes these tides, and it forces the result of all the water being pushed off a particular area. The farther north you go, the bigger the tide swing is. First and foremost, safe navigation is the utmost importance during these tides. You'll see things you never knew were there, okay? And we've went across that in my videos. The highways, the drop-offs, the cuts in the bars, patches of grass, things that you would have never known were there. That's why I kept telling everybody, if you have a negative tide and you can get out there, whether it be walking or on a kayak and then anchor the kayak and walk around, gives you a better lay of the land. The best part about these tides is they can concentrate fish in certain areas such as depressions and cuts on the flats, deep mangrove sloughs, and dredged out boat docks. There are a few reasons why they concentrate here. For one, they don't have anywhere else to go. So what does that mean? It gives you the opportunity to find fish because they're isolated in one area. So if you're walking the flat, you see a deep pocket or a highway that's the only place holding water. You see birds diving, you see mullet running up and down. Chances are there's going to be a redfish, a sea trout, or a snook in that path. because they're predators they want to eat. Next, oftentimes these flats, where these fish hold most of the year, will be dried up, only to be enjoyed by the wading birds. I've even seen it where we've caught snook and redfish out of a depression on a flat that was completely dry. Okay, I mean, I've seen it. We've parked, jumped out on foot, fishing it like a neighborhood pond instead of a flat, and this can be the best times of fishing of the year for you. You've seen me do it. Now, another reason that these deeper areas hold, a more constant water temperature than nearby shallows is if the fish get trapped in the shallow areas on a negative tide, accompanied by a cold front, it can be a disaster. Wind, cold weather causes fast drops in water temperature, which can shock or even kill inshore species such as snook. When you do find the fish in a spot, slow things down. Chances are there are a bunch of them. Dissect the area with fan casts. Typically, what I like to do, start up current if there is any. Work my way with the flow of the water. Try slow moving baits such as artificial shrimp, a spoon, a jig, hop it across the bottom. The fish can be lethargic, especially if the water is really cold. You don't want to exert too much energy chasing the prey. Cold, clean, clear water means natural colored baits. Tan, olives, brown, even black could be some of the go-to colors. You've seen some of the spoons that I've thrown, the whites, the greens, the darker blue crab, the gold spoon. They all work. And top waters work as well, but you have to slow down the cadence. Okay, the fish are going to be lethargic until the sun comes up and starts heating up that flat. Now, what are some of the other questions that I've been asked? Why does it affect the fishing so differently than everything else? Well, again, we're going back to, these are fish that are cold-blooded, okay? We're in the winter seasons here, again, and that's when you find most of the negative tides. So with that being said, they're cold through the night. You don't want to be out there at first light. I mean, you could be, but you would rather wait till that sun comes up and starts heating up that flat. So you time when you go out there to that negative tide, as the sun is going up and it's heating up that flat, those fish are starting to wake up and get turned on, and of course they're going to be hungry. Now, if you have a flat that's fully drained of water, but you have a highway here, okay, and let's say you have a small slough here and an oyster bar here and then another highway with a drop off, or it's a sandbar with a cut with a deep depression, chances are as that tide is moving in, those fish are going to be moving up and down those areas because there's nowhere else for them to go. That is why it is so effective to work a negative tide. And again, these tides are usually closest to the new moon and the full moon. Week before, week after. The past couple of videos that you've seen me out there on over the last week was prior to the full moon, then on the full moon, and then days after the full moon. And you saw the result. Within that 2-week period, we definitely caught, between me and my clients and people from the waist deep weight fishing team, over 40 redfish. There's a reason why they were there. A, there was bait. B, it was an easy place for them to warm up. There was potholes, you had grass, and you had sand flats. And the sand, this is another thing I wanted to discuss, the sand on those flats will heat up faster than anything else on that flat. So when you're walking, just because you don't see a particular patch of grass, but you see a big patch of sand, and if you can't sight and you don't see fish on it, throw your lure into it. You may not be able to see them, but they might be there. So my suggestion to everyone out there that's going to be working these negative tides, be very specific. When you get to an area that I've just discussed, do the fan cast. Cast it, pick it apart. If you see a depression, if you see a little point where you may maybe have 6 inches of water dropping off into a foot of water, there could be 5 or 6 redfish sitting in that 1 foot of water waiting for those mullet to come running down with the tide. One more thing I want to discuss about negative tides is accessibility. When you have these tides, okay, and you go to a certain flat. Now, some of those flats run shallow and then they can run really deep. So when the tide comes in, or even if you get there on a regular tidal flow, you may not or may have never got a chance to see what is actually on the bottom of that deeper flat. But by getting there in that negative tide and doing your homework and walking up and down it, taking the energy, okay, and dissecting it and learning that flat, walking it, seeing that there's a pothole here, there's a hole here. Man, I didn't know there was a little patch of oyster over there. These are all spots that you can mark later on. So the next time you come out there on those negative tides, you automatically will know in your mind, okay, there's definitely fish going to be over here, there's going to be fish over here, and if they're not over here, I have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 other areas that I could walk to on this flat that are going to give me the best opportunity to catch a redfish, a snook, or a sea trout. Now keep in mind, snook are not a cold water fish. Okay, so if you've got temperature, water temperatures 65, even 70, there's some snook on the flats in the winter. But for the majority of the fish you're going to find right now on the flats, it's going to be big trophy redfish, big trophy trout. Now, if the water heats up above 70, you'll see snook running through there. And 70 is not the exact mark, but right around there, between 68 and 72 degrees, that's where the snook start getting uncomfortable. 75 and above, snook will be all over it. So I hope everything that we discussed today will help you guys out there become better anglers, use the information that I give you. Again, I do the best I can to provide all of my subscribers, all of my clients, all of my followers with the best possible advantage that you can have on these grass flats. And if you'd like to go ahead and join me on a guided trip, feel free to hit my information in the description. Waist deep wade fishing charters. I charter all year round. I charter for all inshore species. All you have to do, send me a message, ask me what you're looking to catch, how can we catch it, and when can we catch it. I'll set a date and a time for you. We'll get out together and you'll catch some fish. Till then, I want to say thank you guys for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Love you all. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Go out there, get yourself a yellowmouth, a redfish, and a line sider, and I'll see you on our next adventure.